Yo, we back with another one, Blue is Our City, Manchester City fan channel, and I cannot tell you guys how happy I am to see you guys again and be able to get into commentary and be able to talk to you guys. I know I've been away for a little minute, but at the end of the day, bro, we all got to take a break. So they on international break. I figured I might as well take a break, but you know I wasn't going to leave you hanging. So if you're new to the channel, just know Blue is Our City, Manchester City fan channel. That's what we do. Feel free to hit the like button, share, subscribe. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few things. One is that we're going to be looking at some transfer options. I know every time we seem to go on international break, the transfer rumors start just kind of coming out the woodwork, if you will. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to look at some homegrown options that we currently have. We're going to take a look at the team's needs, but also we're going to have a little bit of fun at the end. And I can't tell you, this video's been a little bit overdue right now, but we're going to have a little fun with our noisy neighbors, if you will, on the other side of the city. So let's get into it, bro. So the first thing we need to talk about, obviously, is the fact that, you know, it's transfer week. Everybody's talking about this player, that player, and everything. So I wanted to take a look at the team's specific needs right now. So when you look at the team, the one thing that I'm thinking about that we need is obviously we need a left back at some point. You know, we know that we got Mendy. We know that we got Zinchenko. We know that, you know, João Cancelo's been playing there, but that's one thing that we're going to have to look at, you know, as a long-term solution for the team, you know, because like I said, Mendy's kind of been out of form. Like him, love him, hate him. Personally, I'm a Mendy type of guy, but obviously we see Mendy's not really getting any burn here in the team. We know that João Cancelo's been performing well, but he's not a natural left back, you know. And then you got Zinchenko. So Zinchenko's been fighting for his places throughout the team, and he's made some good decisions, and we got a chance to see him versus Everton. So Zinchenko is a good option, but I think that's one of the needs we need to look at long term. Also, we got to talk about the CDM position. Obviously, we know Ferner's a living legend. You know, where's Ferner on the map? You know, where's Ferner on the map? Where's Ferner on the map? There we go. That guy right there. So Ferner, we got to talk about Ferner. Ferner is obviously a living legend at the club, but the one thing about Ferner is we know that he's not getting any younger, even though every time we see him, we just are reminded as to what this guy can do, and shows you how nobody else can really touch him. So, but Ferner's not getting any younger, and then we know we got Rodri. But at some point, the team is going to have to think about a backup CDM. We know that we also have a plethora of midfield options, but when you really think about it, Ilkay Gundogan is still in that age bracket, to where, let's say, for instance, he might have 3 or 4 more years left, and then we got Kevin who can float in there, we got Bernardo who can float in there. But I think that the team is going to have to look at another box-to-box midfielder at some point. So maybe those are not options right now. I think left back is a prime option, but maybe CDM is something that we're going to look at next year. Center midfielder, another center midfielder to add to the team, maybe something that we look at next year or maybe the year after, but we got to keep it at the front of our minds. And then we're going to get to this left wing. The reason why I think we need a left winger, and a lot of people may feel we don't need a left winger, but I'm going to tell you why we do need a left winger. Because right now, when you look at the team, our left wing options seem to be Raheem Sterling and Phil Foden at this point. But obviously, if you know you're a City fan and you love Phil Foden like we all do, we want to see Phil Foden get to that midfield position that we think that he's destined to be in. Right now, you know, Guardiola alluded to it earlier in the year that he's playing there because, you know, he's still trying to work and develop his body, develop his craft. But I don't think it's a natural fit for him. But at the end of the day, we'll take him there. But we need to start thinking about left wing. And preferably, when I think about left wing, you know, ever since the days that Leroy was here, we need to look at a left wing option that is, you know, left-footed first and foremost. And right now, we don't tend to have that. We have Phil Foden as the only one who can play on the left wing, and he's a natural left-footer because we like that natural width. Yes, we've shown this season that we can adapt to things, but we probably need to get back to basics at some point, and that could be next year, that could be the year after, and I know Torres can play out there too, but my point being is that we need to look at a left-back option that is power and pace, has to be a speedy left winger at some point, and then a natural left footer. Now we're going to get on to the main talking point, which is obviously striker. because that's what we all want at this point. Because we're looking at Gabriel Jesus, and some people are asking questions if Gabriel Jesus could take over that mantle long term. Not really too sure, and I'm not going to make the judgment call on that. I think Gabby's been phenomenal for the team. Has he scored the goals that we really wish he would this year? Probably not. And I know he frustrates some people in front of goal, and sometimes he frustrates me as well. But then we only have him, and we got our living legend, Mr. Sergio Kun Aguero. But we know that Aguero's not getting any younger at this point. So, which really brings me on to that main talking point. So, what I really want to talk about first and foremost is kind of, let's get to some of these striking options here. So I got a few players pulled up, and I'm gonna kind of go through this in different orders, if you will. So when we talk about striking the team's needs, obviously there's several players that come into mind, but the reason why I want to talk about a few in this video is because there's so many different striking options out there, and I've been listening to some of the chatter online from not other fan channels but also the media too. So, and I'm saying to myself, like, we don't need this player, we don't need that player, so we're going to go through that. So the first player I want to look at is a player that we were talking about early in the season, and we kind of forgot about him, and I don't know why we forgotten about him. But the one player I want to talk about is, first of all, Latoya Martinez. Latoya Martinez is a phenomenal talent, and we know Argentina's been really good for Manchester City, you know, throughout the years. You could think about Di Michaelis, you could think about Zaba, you could think about Sergio. You know, we've had a number of different Argentine talents, Otamendi. So we've had some phenomenal talents throughout the years, but for some reason we all have tended to fall back on Latoya Martinez. So I got some of his stats pulled up here, and I think that Latoya Martinez is a fantastic player to me. The one thing that I'm looking at, and I'm currently searching online, and I see that, you know, as of a little early in the season, he was valued at around 77 mil. I'm not too sure if Inter would take 77 mil right now for him, but I think that he is a great option for us because in the style that Conte plays, you know, you might look at a player one way underneath Conte, but if he flowed into the Pep Guardiola system, he might be able to perform a little bit differently. So I think that he's an option that we should look at, right? So that's one player I want to look at. The second player I want to talk about is none other than João Felix. Now, some of you might be saying that João Felix is not what you would consider like a pure number 9. I would beg to differ, and I'm going to tell you why. One thing that you got to be careful of is when you look at young players, sometimes you got to understand that they're not at they don't have their man body yet. You know what I mean? So when you look at somebody, you might say, oh, he's a second striker right now, or he has the ability to play the wing. But when you look at João Felix, you know João Felix has super talent. He is on that level. The man is only 21 years old right now. He's playing for Diego Simeone, and obviously, I'm just going to keep it real. I kind of feel bad for the man sometimes because of the system that Simeone plays. It probably doesn't bring out the best in João Felix. We know he signed that ridiculously long contract that I think he still has about another 5 years left on, but I think we should be monitoring the situation, simply meaning that we know that they're out of the Champions League now because they lost to Chelsea. But imagine if they somehow, you know, kind of capitulated in La Liga and, you know, somebody comes up and takes a La Liga title away from them, that might start to add a little bit of fuel to the fire. Now, Atletico Madrid has been really good to us throughout the year, so we have a good relationship with this particular club. Now, I think it would be a lot of money to kind of get João Felix away from them, but you can kind of see a situation where João Felix might start to get a little frustrated, not only within this team, and the club may say, you know what, Diego Simeone, we're going to let you go because we want to kind of have a more expansive style of football, but also we want to please João Felix because we know he signed that ridiculously long contract. And, you know, there was a talk of maybe 120 mil. Now, I'm currently looking online and I see a figure around $88 million. Now, I'm pretty sure that that's not the number that's really going to take. I think it's going to take a little bit more than that. But my point here is that this man is 21 years old. He's an electric talent. And just imagine what he could do for Manchester City if we ever got the chance to really, you know, add him to the squad. And keep in mind, like I said previously, just because you see a player now at 21, their body may be different at the age of 25. So don't judge him as, I don't know if he can really play the number 9 position, especially in the Premier League, because it's more physical. But I think that this man just has flawless talent. So he's the player I definitely want to look at, right? The third player I really want to get into is none other than Kylian Mbappe. And I'm going to tell you why. Kylian Mbappe is 22 years old. Now, we know that this man is an electric talent. I mean, super duper electric talent. You know, you don't really find these players that often. We're talking about generational talent. The only problem I see with Kylian Mbappe is that number. We know that number is going to be high. Now, there's been some chatter about him maybe wanting to leave PSG. I can't quite see it yet. I don't know how much it would take, but my thought process is it'll be around 150 mil. Do I think that City is going to pay 150 mil? Absolutely not. You know, and a lot of people try to say, oh, it's Manchester City. You know, we got money for days, but trust me, the club has got money, but we ain't got that type of money. You know what I mean? Just to go out there and spend on a player like Kylian Mbappe, even though he's a phenomenal talent. Do we have 150 to 200 mil just to throw at him? I'm not too sure about that right now, given the squad. But he is also another player, just like João Felix, to where you can't really judge these players right now at such a young age. Pardon me, it's early in the morning over here in the States. I don't know where you guys are, but got to take that cup of coffee, right? So, you know, when I look at Kylian Mbappe, I always said to myself, yes, he may play on the right. Yes, he may play on the left, but he's 22 years old. And I think he has that ability to definitely play the striker position at some point in his life. We could essentially groom him into playing this striker position. So, you know, as we go through this, please feel free to let me know you guys' thoughts. Get at me in the comments and let me know what you guys are feeling out there. So, but I think that another reason why we have to look at Kylian Mbappe is simply this. Now, we know Liverpool has kind of, you know, tapered a little bit off of the levels that they were at previously. But if they manage to get Kylian Mbappe, that might be a problem for us. And I'm not saying that we should go after him to prevent Liverpool from getting him, because at the end of the day, Kylian Mbappe is a phenomenal electric talent. And I think that he would benefit our squad. But we also don't need to be letting Liverpool get this guy either, because this guy could just totally upend seasons, because we know the talent that he currently has. And at such a young age, you know, you talk about Thierry Henry. You know, imagine if you're a Manchester City fan out there, but imagine if we had the chance to get, you know, Thierry Henry back in the day. I know we had no chance with his Arsenal and Barcelona ties, but, you know, imagine if we had a chance to get a player like that, how, you know, instrumental that person would be in our squad. So I definitely want us to look at him. I'm not too sure we'll pay that price, but that's just my thoughts on that. Another player, two of these last three players I'm going to get into are very interesting. The first one I want to look at is there's so much talk around this guy, and I got to be careful because I'm not trying to disrespect this guy at all. But I want to take a look at Jack Relish. There's been a lot of chatter about Manchester City being tied to Jack Grealish. And I'm saying to myself, absolutely not. Now, let me be clear why I say absolutely not. I think he is a phenomenal talent. The man's age is around 25 years old right now. He's an England international. He has great leadership skills because he's already the captain of Villa, but we know he has leadership skills. But the thing I start to look at when I look at Jack Grealish is that Jack Grealish is a player, in my opinion, that he plays on the wing right now. And I've always said that if we're going to go out there and get another winger, we have a lot of right foot wingers right now. We have Sterling out there who's going to play. Now, I know you may be talking about Mahrez, who's a lefty, but Mahrez normally plays on the right-hand side. I've only seen Mahrez play on the left side one time. But I think that Jack Grealish, if we're going to spend that type of money, and his money is only what I see, 66 million. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but I know he has absolutely great qualities. But if I need a left winger right now, I'm looking for power and pace and primarily being left footed. And Jack Grealish does not check that box for me. Leadership skills are one thing, but I think that Jack Grealish can play left wing, right wing, but ideally you might want to see him at the 10 position. And, you know, we don't really play that 4-2-3-1, you know, setup that much. Yes, we do tend to play it sometimes, but we already have too many players that can play the 10 within the squad. So that's just my opinion on Jack Grealish. I think he's a phenomenal player, but we do not need a left winger that is right-footed right now. So it's not a knock on Jack Grealish. I just don't see us needing this player, even though his price tag is a little bit cheaper, right? This player, the second to last player I want to talk about is Harry Kane. And man, there's been so much talk about Harry Kane, you know, him maybe wanting to leave Spurs for whatever reason. I think he's a phenomenal talent. Harry Kane's about 27, 28 years old right now. But the one thing I would say about Harry Kane is we know he's a proven goal scorer, for one. England international, possesses some of those same leadership qualities that, you know, Jack Grealish possesses. And he might be, I would say, probably top 3 strikers in the world. And the number I'm currently looking at for Harry Kane is probably around 132 or 120 mil. At the end of the day, do we want to give Daniel Levy 120 mil? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. England international. I know he's a proven goal scorer, but the one thing I see with Harry Kane is Harry Kane's already at that age to where this is not a knock on his age. I don't like to really get into like what I consider to be ageism, but Harry Kane is already 27, 28 years old. We know he's a phenomenal talent, but the one thing about Harry Kane that got me a little concerned is over the last few years, I've been watching Harry Kane. You know, every year he's going to pick up that one injury. And he's been picking up these injuries very much so every season. And it may only keep him out a month. It may keep him out 3 months, you know, but he's a phenomenal talent. I just don't want to spend that level of money on somebody who I know is a proven goal scorer, but who has a tendency to pick up injuries. And your best ability, no matter if you're playing, you know, football or European football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, basketball, baseball, American football, your best ability is availability, in my opinion. And Guardiola is big on that. Guardiola is big on availability. And I'm saying to myself, we don't need Harry Kane because we might have a young Harry Kane already in the squad, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. Do I necessarily think that this player could get to the levels of Harry Kane? It's a possibility, but Harry Kane is a phenomenal goal scorer, about at 120, 130 mil, giving that money to Daniel Levy, and he has a tendency to pick up injuries. Negativo. That's what I'm going to say on that. So that's a done deal in my opinion. Now let's talk about the main star of the show. Everybody's been talking about Haaland, right? We all love Haaland. And the one thing I've always said about Haaland, I previously made a video on this, is I think Haaland is a phenomenal talent. If we need a striker and we're going to spend this level of money, which is going to be a record amount of money that we can spend on a player, it's going to have to be Haaland. If I'm going to spend 120 mil, it has to be for a phenomenal talent like Haaland. Haaland is 20 years old. The man is tall, he's got power, he's got pace, and he's good with either feet. The only problem I see with him is that now we got to deal with that agent, Mino Raiola, and we have to deal with the fact that now I think Real Madrid has put in their hand in the bucket. They try to get him. You know, I think that there's some talk around Chelsea possibly trying to land him. So we know we're going to have stiff competition for him. And then at the end of the day, Borussia Dortmund wants to drive that price up as much as possible. So they're going to have to be able to part ways with him at some point. But I do think that he's a phenomenal talent, but I'm not too sure how Guardiola, Mino Raiola could get on. And then if we land him, if I'm going to spend 120 million for somebody, this has to be somebody I want to see at the club for a long, long time. I'm talking 7 to 8 years. And all of the stuff that I found out, all of the readings that I read, is more about him trying to join a club for about 3 or 4 years and then being able to move on to another club. So do we want to spend 120 million for somebody who might not be around in 4 or 5 years? And I'm not too sure about that, in my opinion. But if I'm going to spend money, 120 million on a striker, it probably would be Haaland. That's just my opinion on the matter. So that's what I got there. Now I want to talk about, why are we looking at these options? Obviously, we're looking at strikers because we know that we need a striker, given Gabriel Jesus and Sergio Aguero. But I want to talk about something that just probably might be a little, an opinion of mine that, I strongly have, is that maybe we have some options in the team that we can look at, right, long term. We know that we have Liam. Liam is a phenomenal talent, in my opinion. I've read some stories out there that he might be a little bit of a hothead, but that doesn't really bother me, and I'm going to tell you why. Is that, sometimes when you have a hothead players, those players, they're feisty, they want to win, and I think Liam has those abilities. And a hothead could be appreciated by, somebody like, Pellegrini might like a player like that, and we know that this man right here, I think that we know that this man, you go back to 2012 and you look at, some of our coaches throughout the years may appreciate, a hothead. And I think Roberto might be one that can really appreciate him. So I definitely think that we need to start seeing where Liam Delap's progress can go. I don't know if we loan him out for a particular year, but I think we need to kind of develop him in a way to where we keep him in the team. And another reason why we need to keep him in the team is that he's already a homegrown player. He's about 18 years old right now. Anywhere between, I think, 18 and 19 is what I read for him. England player. 18 or 19, he's tall, he shows progress, he's got a little bit of that feistiness that we all love. So I think that we need to kind of watch his progress. We don't know where he may be in a few years, but I definitely think we need to watch him and kind of keep our eyes on his development and not look to sell him in the future, because we might have something there already. And another unpopular one is kind of what I alluded to earlier, is that when you're talking about an 18 or a 20-year-old talent, you can't really categorize them the way you see them now. And that's going to lead me up to somebody I've been talking about before, is that when you look at a player, let's say Torres, right? We know that Torres is joining the squad, right? And we bought him as a winging option. But you can't tell me, from what I'm seeing, is that Torres might have some ability in there to maybe be like a Negredo of sorts, to where he could be a striking option. Now, I'm not too sure Pep would groom him that way, but I definitely think that he's a taller player. He's on the taller side. I think he's clinical in front of goal. Maybe we haven't seen it to the best of the abilities this year, but we know that we're sprinkling him into the team. We have a deep squad, so we can't really give up on him. And the way that you see him now as a winging option, he might be different. His body might develop differently to where he could be a striking option for us. So don't be shocked if, let's say, for instance, that we try to go in for Haaland or we try to go in for Kane, the numbers are too high, and then we decide to pivot and not spend that money, because I think Pep knows in the back of his head is that Torres could be a striking option for us as we develop him over time. So don't sleep on that. Now, to the segment of the show that I really wanted to talk about. And normally I don't pay attention to these guys, but there's been so much chatter about our nosy neighbors, on the other side of the city. So I was just supposed to say, I see everybody's doing transfer, videos. So I said, let me do a little bit of a transfer video, but let me have a little bit of fun. So what do I mean by this is, I don't know where you guys were, but on Sunday, and I'm not saying Saturday was a great win for the team in the FA Cup, but Sunday was the day for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Man, all the videos I saw, oh, it's Manchester City ruining football. Manchester City this, Manchester City that. And it's always the nosy neighbors that are talking it. Shout out to those channels, because I ain't gonna lie, I can't, disrespect those channels because they really have built big platforms. But I said I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with this. So Manchester United, their fans, since they, beat us 2-0, they just been feeling themselves and talking all of this jazz. And like I mentioned, Manchester City ruining football, Manchester United, they have a responsibility to uphold their treble status. They're the only team that can stop us. But I'm sitting back saying to myself, player, how you gonna stop us if you're not even in the competition anymore? So the way that they got bounced out of the FA Cup, I thought it was the funniest stuff that I could ever watch. If it was a movie, I would literally go pay about $20 US just to sit up there and watch that movie because of the way that they lost that game. And the way, did you see how, sometimes I watch their channel, but Flex and Ricky, they were just going at it, and Ricky was getting a little spicy because, you could see that they just were heartbroken that they got bounced out of the FA Cup. And I'm saying to myself, Ricky, I need you to slow down. I need you to slow down, because one of the highlights of my life would be able to see Ricky versus, let's say, somebody like Ian on our side. Imagine that we had a Manchester derby, preferably in the Premier League. I would love to see Ricky versus Ian, as a kind of like a video of them talking about Manchester City versus Manchester United, preferably after a draw or City win. If Man United win, Ian, trust me, I'm not paying money to see you in that situation, but I would love to see Ricky versus Ian. But they were all up in the air like, oh my God, Manchester United is no longer going to have the opportunity to defend their rights and defend their treble because they're the only team that can stop City. And I'm saying to myself, guess what, player? You can't stop us if you're no longer in the competition. So I thought that was absolutely hilarious. So my point being there is that, look, do what you guys do over there. And the reason why I want to bring this up also is that you're starting to see them capitulate. I made a video about this probably in January where I was talking about when they were at the top of the table, is I knew that they were going to capitulate because they don't have players in their squad like we have players in our squad. Our players have more in their DNA when it comes to winning the Premier League title. Everybody on our squad, pretty much outside of João Cancelo, Ruben Diaz, let me see who else in there. João Cancelo, Ruben Diaz, Florent Torres. Most of our squad has experience at winning multiple Premier League titles. So we know what it takes to win there. And ever since that moment, I knew we was going to ask them questions because they were not going to be able to have that sustained pressure like Manchester City has. So I love it when I see them capitulating. They're just falling apart. And I said to myself, now look at all of that. Where was all that energy when you guys won, 2-0 versus City? Where was all that energy then? They were feeling themselves, but how quickly they come back to earth. So I thought I was going to have a little fun there. The next point I want to bring up is, and I'm going to tell you why they getting a little upset that they don't really talk about. It's now they're starting to see what's going on, because preferably, they like to disrespect us talking about, oh, we didn't exist until we got the money. But what they're trying to really say psychologically is that they started to feel that pressure because ever since 2011, they see that now we got 5 title opportunities here. 5 title opportunities between Mancini, Pellegrini winning, Pep Guardiola got 2. If we win this year, that'll be 5 Premier League titles in 10 years. So you can remember back in 2011, when we won, they're like, it's just Manchester City, whatever. Now, Pellegrini wins, and then they're like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it doesn't even matter because we won 2012, right? But then with Pep Guardiola won in the Centurion season, now the banter is like, forget those guys, whatever. But then we won that 18-19 season, and you could start seeing them kind of being like, ooh, they started to just pump the brakes. And the reason why they pumping the brakes right now, especially if we win this year, they gonna be breaking televisions, they gonna be getting all types of mad, you know what I mean? Because they starting to see that we won 5 Premier League titles in 10 years. And I know the season is not over yet, so we got to be mindful of that. But they're just starting to imagine that if they won 5 in 10 years, hold up now, what can they do in 20 years or an additional 10 years? So they starting to recognize the potential that this club has, and that's what it's all about. Because I always said my goal with Manchester City is that, obviously I know a lot of us want to win the Champions League, but my main goal has always been to catch Everton. If we can catch Everton in the next few years, now Arsenal fans are going to start recognizing that there's a possibility we can catch Arsenal. So I want us to get to Everton's level, then we're going to catch Arsenal, then we can go to Liverpool and United, and they starting to see that that is a real possibility. So that's the reason why all of the chatter is coming out of their camp. But that's enough of those guys. But I thought I'll make a transfer video combined with a little bit of fun, in my opinion. So I'm just going to make this video real quick. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button, get at me in the comments. I'm going to see you guys. I think I'm going to do a Leicester City preview because we know that that is a big game coming up on Sunday. I'm going to do a video on that on Friday. But until then, please enjoy your time. Please enjoy this time, you know, however you tend to choose it, spend it rather. But just keep doing everything and stay City all day. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.